Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, some stories aren't merely told, they're uncovered, aren't they? Like these ancient secrets just waiting to be whispered, from forgotten corners of a world, revealing layers you never even knew were there.
Absolutely. And today we're embarking on exactly that kind of excavation.
We are. We're pulling back the veil on this really extraordinary chronicle of a universe we might think we know pretty well, but one that, well, it holds depths few have truly explored.
Indeed. Our deep dive today centers on The Elder Scrolls, A Dreamer's Chronicle of Tamriel. It's a truly unique work by Oliver Werner Nightingale, who goes by The Dreamer.
The Dreamer, I like that.
Yeah. And this isn't, your standard dry historical account or just a list of lore facts. Not at all.
Okay.
Instead, it's this really poetic, deeply reflective exploration. It masterfully blends the known facts of Tamriel with its sprawling myths. And it's all seen through this profound, almost mystical personal insight.
So The Dreamer isn't just listing events.
No, they're interpreting them. It's almost like they're speaking from within the very fabric of the Elder Scrolls themselves. It's quite something.
That's what makes this sound so compelling, right? Our mission today is to journey through this incredible chronicle.
Yeah.
It really promises to be an expedition into the very soul of Tamriel. And what immediately jumps out, even from the very beginning, is how the Dreamer hints at these huge underlying themes, things that go way beyond typical fantasy tropes.
Right.
Talk about like the fundamental nature of divinity, the cyclical, often really tragic dance of power, and even this astonishing kind of mind-bending idea that reality itself, this entire vibrant world we're diving into, might just be a dream, a deep sleeping dream.
It's a heavy concept.
It really is. It's a journey that invites us not just to learn the lore, but to actually feel it, to immerse ourselves in these philosophical currents.
Precisely. And to really get a handle on the unique philosophy underpinning the Elder Scrolls, especially how it approaches narrative and player agency, it's actually helpful to look at a specific stage set by some other games first.
Okay, where are we starting?
Well, these aren't games that just shout their purpose at you through loads of exposition. Instead, as the source puts it so well, they whisper it.
Whisper it.
Yeah, they teach these really profound lessons, but not through tutorials or straightforward stories. They teach through difficulty, through silence, and maybe most profoundly, through failure, through the lessons you learn when you fail.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. The Chronicle brings up Demon Souls right away from 2009, which, thinking back, it really wasn't expected to kickstart a whole genre, but it kind of quietly did, didn't it?
It absolutely did.
It's described here as this desolate, fog-shrouded experience, all ruin and despair. I remember playing it. You could die like 1,000 times and still feel completely lost, which sounds, incredibly frustrating on paper. So what was it? What made that relentless, often punishing experience resonate so much? Why did people stick with it?
Well, what's truly fascinating, and what players discovered, maybe without even realizing it at first, was this deep respect for their struggle that was kind of missing elsewhere.
Respect for the struggle.
Yeah.
How so?
The game just didn't hold your hand. It didn't spell everything out. The world certainly didn't explain itself or its rules.
Right. No quest logs telling you exactly where to go.
Exactly. Instead, you, the player, were basically compelled to find meaning through your own efforts, through immense patience, and through immense repeated loss. Failure wasn't just a setback. It was the learning mechanism.
So it became this kind of self-discovery, learning through doing and dying.
Pretty much. A quiet, almost meditative process of figuring out the rules of this silent, unforgiving reality. It fundamentally taught that your persistence was the narrative. Your effort created the story.
And from that quiet spark, Dark Souls, in 2011, basically turned it into a roaring flame, didn't it? It really cemented this whole approach.
It really did.
The source describes it beautifully, saying it gave us the age of fire and the inevitability of its fading. That phrase just evokes this feeling of a world that wasn't just old, but genuinely tired.
Exhausted, almost.
Yeah, a place where even the gods themselves were clinging on, afraid of death, afraid of losing their power. It wasn't about flashy cutscenes or long text dumps.
No.
Instead, it subtly but powerfully taught a whole generation that perseverance is the story. Your struggle, your tiny victories, your many defeats, they weren't just gameplay mechanics, they were the unfolding narrative.
And that's the foundation, really, for this whole genre, the Souls-like genre that emerged. It wasn't just defined by mechanics, stamina bars, parry timing, although those were key.
Sure, they were important.
But fundamentally, it became a genre of feeling. of undertaking a particular kind of challenge, an enigmatic journey. And From Software, the studio behind them, they kept evolving this core idea.
Right, like with Bloodborne.
Exactly. Bloodborne took a sharp turn, shifting from that sort of decaying medieval fantasy into full-blown madness and cosmic horror, blurring that thin veil between human and beast in a way that was just deeply unsettling but totally captivating.
And Sekiro then felt different again. It made the blade itself the story, demanding this absolute focus, this presence from the player. Precision, rhythm.
And total commitment. No grinding levels for hours, no getting lost in side quests, just you, your sword, and this incredibly intense path.
And then boom, Elden Ring, which just blew the doors off in terms of scale, right? This massive, sprawling open world. But what's amazing is even with that immense scale, it still managed to make you feel small, vulnerable, just like in the earlier, more linear games. It proved that scale didn't have to dilute that core feeling, that sense of being this small but potentially impactful force in a vast and different world.
And this spirit, this whole approach to design and storytelling, it didn't just stay with From Software. You saw its influence ripple out across the industry.
Yeah.
Games like Nioh or Wolong,
Yeah.
they took that challenging combat, that environmental storytelling, and infused it with these rich, mythic East Asian echoes, exploring yokai, demons, themes of loyalty and betrayal, but within their own distinct cultural contexts. It showed the formula was adaptable.
And it also popped up in completely different settings too, right? Taking those familiar formulas into new worlds.
Absolutely. You think about Lords of the Fallen or Lies of P with its sort of clockwork puppet aesthetic, or even Remnant and The Surge going into sci-fi and post-apocalyptic territory. They all took those core ideas, deliberate difficulty, meaningful combat, narrative through clues in the world, item descriptions, and transplanted them successfully. Clockwork cities, sci-fi battlefields. It proved the philosophy was robust. You could build fresh experiences around that challenging core.
It's interesting, too, how the influence wasn't just about combat difficulty.
That's a great point.
Like Ghost of Tsushima. It's an open-world action game, sure, but it explores this protagonist with a really torn soul set against this breathtakingly beautiful world. And the difficult choices you make have real moral weight. It feels reminiscent of the personal cost you often see in Souls-like stories.
The weight of choice.
And Horizon, too.
Right.
With its giant robot dinosaurs and post-apocalyptic setting, it reminds you that sometimes the biggest threats aren't new monsters, but things inherited from the past, passed down through generations. That echoes the ancient cyclical feel you get in a lot of these games.
So yeah, from those initial kind of murky, fog-filled corridors of demon souls, all the way to the huge, haunting lands between an Elden Ring, this genre grew, not necessarily just in spectacle, but in this incredible depth, this emotional resonance.
It really taught us that silence can speak volumes, that loss can actually shape meaning in profound ways, and paradoxically, that every time you die, it can actually be a step forward, a step towards understanding the world and your place in it.
And that's why it endures, I think. It's not just difficulty for difficulty's sake. It's because, as the Dreamer's Chronicle puts it so beautifully, these games give us what few others dare: a chance to fall, a reason to rise, and a world that does not care if we succeed, but will be forever changed if we do.
That's powerful. A world that doesn't care but is changed by you anyway.
Exactly. And that whole philosophical lens, that understanding of impact born from struggle against indifference, it sets a crucial stage. It helps us view the Elder Scrolls in a particular light because it, too, is this deeply personal journey of discovery and profound, often unnoticed impact.
Which brings us perfectly, then, to the heart of today's deep dive. Actually stepping into Tamriel, this dream woven in time, sand, and stars. And the Dreamer's Chronicle opens with this incredibly profound statement. It immediately sets the tone for everything. It says, "There is no beginning, not truly. In the world of the Elder Scrolls, beginnings are illusions like time, like power, like the gods themselves."
Whoa. Okay, that's a heavy start. Illusions.
Right. It fundamentally challenges our normal, linear way of thinking about reality, about history.
It truly does. And you see this nonlinear nature echoed right away in how you, the player, always start the game. That iconic awakening.
Yeah, the prisoner start.
Exactly. You, the listener, stepping into this world, you might wake up in a prison cell in Arena. Or maybe on a ship's hull, like in Morrowind. Or in that cart heading for execution in Skyrim.
Always starting from nothing. No name, no past.
Precisely. No defined past, no preordained path laid out for you. The Chronicle emphasizes you are not the master of prophecy. You're just its echo. A blank slate.
So the world doesn't revolve around you from the get-go.
Not at all. And yet, with your very first breath in that world, it leans in just slightly. It acknowledges you're there, hinting at some kind of destiny, but one you have to forge yourself. The chronicle is clear. You're called to a grand purpose, yeah, but not because you're inherently special. It's more like the world needs an answer, and you just happen to be the one who arrived to potentially provide it.
And this chronicle, it insists Tamriel isn't just a setting, right?
Yeah.
Not just a backdrop for quests. It's described really powerfully as a living, breathing entity, as a soul.
A soul, yeah. And you really feel that soul in every corner of this huge, diverse continent.
Give some examples. How does that soul manifest?
Okay, well, picture the ash-choked skies of Morrowind, scarred by Red Mountain, humming with the sorrow that feels ancient, inescapable. The air itself feels heavy with past tragedies.
Right, very distinctive feel.
Then contrast that with the golden, almost idyllic fields of Cyrodiil, the heart of the Empire, striving for peace, for unity, but always sort of teetering on the edge of breaking apart again.
Okay. Or think about the frozen, jagged peaks of Skyrim, a land of ancient shouts, even older conflicts. Every mountain seems to echo with forgotten heroes and lost battles. You definitely feel the history there. Or the dense, really mysterious jungles of Black Marsh, home to the Argonians, tied to their weird hister trees. Or the arid, moon-kissed dunes of Elsewhere, home of the Khajiit, shaped by the moons. Or the untamed jungles of Valenwood, where the Bosmer live by the Green Pact. So all these incredibly different places. Yeah, all stitched together by various empires that rise and fall over time. But as the dreamer observes with such insight, they're never truly tamed. They always keep this wild, primal core. They resist being completely dominated.
And watching over all this complex reality, you have the divine and cosmic orders, the Aedra and the Daedra.
Right, the 8 or 9 divines versus the 16 Daedric princes.
And then you have more localized gods, too, like the Tribunal and Morrowind, worship as living gods. Or even weirder stuff, like the Dream Sleeve. What's that again? Ah, the Dream Sleeve. It's the sort of ethereal plane where souls are thought to travel between lives, like a cosmic memory bank for all of existence. Super esoteric.
Wow, okay. And these gods, they aren't just distant figures.
Not usually, no. They are beings that walk, whisper, or weep right within the fabric of the world. Their influence is tangible, direct, and often pretty terrifying.
And the world itself,
Yeah.
it remembers things.
Deeply. That's something the dreamer really emphasizes. Every crumbling city, every forgotten ruin, every old book you find tucked away in a cave, it carries the breath of millennia.
Like the Dwemer.
Exactly. You stumble upon the legacy of the vanished Dwemer. These incredible, ingenious cities now totally silent. Their absence is almost louder than any shout. It's like this constant reminder of what happens when mortals dig too deep into things they shouldn't, into divine power.
And the Allies, too.
Yeah, the ruins left by the broken Alides. They mastered magic, created beauty, but it ultimately led to their downfall. And you hear the echoes of the Nords, who literally used their voice, the Thu'um, to shout the sky into submission, shaping the land itself.
So Tamriel isn't just a place you explore.
No, it's a living archive. The dreamer calls it a wound, a miracle, a warning.
A wound, a miracle, a warning. Explain that.
A wound from all the past conflicts. A miracle that it still exists despite everything. And a warning against hubris, against reaching too far.
Which leads us, I guess, to the heart of it all.
Yeah.
The things the series is named after, the Elder Scrolls themselves. The Dreamer makes it clear these aren't just old prophecies that tell the future, right? This is where it gets really weird and interesting.
Yeah, this is fundamental. Their nature is way more profound and frankly terrifying. They are, as the Chronicle says, time-made paper, reality written wrong.
Time-made paper, reality written wrong. What does that even mean?
Imagine documents that aren't just about the world, but in some fundamental way they are the world. Mutable, changeable, and cosmically dangerous.
So each scroll is alive or changing.
It's like a living contradiction. It tells the future, but at the same time, it becomes the past. Its contents can literally change based on who reads it or what actions are taken in the world.
Reading one changes you.
Fundamentally, the source says it warps your perceptions, tests your sanity. You glimpse the true, indifferent shape of the world, realizing it doesn't actually care if you live or die, succeed or fail.
So they tell stories, but don't explain them.
Exactly. They convey these grand narratives, these epic tales woven into existence, but they never give you neat answers. The why behind the what. That burden falls on you, the player. It becomes your journey to interpret, to make meaning.
And this changeable, interpretative nature of the scrolls, that connects to the player character, right? The hero you play in each game.
Directly.
The Dreamer's Chronicle puts it so perfectly, it really reframes how you think about your role. You are not the hero. You are a hero.
That's such a key distinction.
Yeah. You're one among many. The Neverine in Morrowind, the hero of Kvatch in Oblivion, the Dovahkiin in Skyrim, the Vestige in ESO. The Chronicle insists each one is real, each chosen, each leaving a mark, even if it's sometimes forgotten by history later on.
Which raises that big question the Dreamer probes.
Oh, okay.
Chosen, but by whom?
Right. Is it prophecy, the scrolls themselves, or something bigger?
Like the Godhead, that vast dreaming entity that might be the source of all reality in Tamriel.
And this is where it gets really empowering for the player.
Yeah, the Dreamer hints at this other possibility, one that gives you incredible agency. Maybe it's none of those external forces. Maybe, in the end, you choose yourself.
So your own will, your determination is the catalyst.
It suggests that, yeah, amidst this grand, often seemingly deterministic story, maybe the player's own conscious choice to act is what truly sets things in motion. You're not just a pawn, you're an active participant in this whole dream.
Okay, speaking of grand narratives and big questions, let's dig into some of the core themes that just echo through Tamriel. Themes the Dreamer weaves throughout this chronicle. First one, divinity and mortality. This isn't your standard fantasy setup, is it? Where gods are just all-powerful beings watching from on high.
Not at all. The relationship between gods and mortals here is deeply complex, often tragic, and almost always comes with a cost.
A cost? Like what?
Well, the Dreamer really focuses on the immense cost of godhood. Take the tribunal Vivek, Amalexia, Sothasel. They became gods, right? But not through birthright?
No, they weren't born gods.
Their ascension came through this colossal act of sacrilege, a horrific price. It was born from, as the Chronicle puts it, betrayal, blood, and ash.
Betrayal, blood, and ash. Sounds grim.
Their power was stolen from a broken promise, from the actual heart of Lorkhan, a divine spark, using ancient Dwemer tools they shouldn't have touched. So their divinity is this constant reminder of their crime, a fragile power built on suffering.
Then you've got Tiber Septim, who became Talos, the ninth divine.
Yeah.
That was different, right?
Very different path. He was a mortal man, a conqueror. He achieved divinity not by messing with the divine artifact directly, but through, well, sheer myth-making, a relentless war, unifying the continent, and the undeniable power of his voice, his Stuum.
So through human ambition and will.
Essentially, yes. Equally impactful, central to the Empire, but a different kind of apotheosis.
And then there's the big cosmic split.
Yeah.
Aedra versus Daedra.
The fundamental difference. The Aedra, the 8 or 9 divines, they are the bones of the world. They sacrificed themselves, poured their essence into creating Mundus, the mortal realm.
Sacrificed themselves, so they died.
In essence, yeah, they died into creation, becoming fixed, often distant. Their power was spent giving form to reality. They represent order, stability, but at immense cost to themselves.
And the Daedra.
They refused to participate. They kept their power, living eternally outside in their realms of oblivion. They often interfere, sometimes cruelly, sometimes just weirdly, for their own inscrutable reasons. They represent chaos, change, the untamed forces.
So putting it all together, stolen divinity, mortal ascension, divine sacrifice, what's the big takeaway?
The core insight, as the Dreamer puts it, is really provocative. To become a god in Tamriel is not ascension, it is sacrifice.
Not ascension, sacrifice.
It challenges the whole notion.
Yeah.
It suggests divinity always comes with this profound, often destructive cost, whether it's your essence, your morality, or your humanity.
Okay, next theme. Empire and rebellion. This seems like a constant in Tamriel.
Oh, absolutely. The Dreamer highlights that every age seems marked by the rise and then inevitably the fall of some dominant power, some grand imperial project.
Like the Septim Empire in Cyrodiil.
Right, striving for unity but always facing threats. Or the fall of the Tribunal in Morrowind after centuries of rule. Or the Civil War tearing Skyrim apart, rooted in old imperial conflicts and cultural clashes.
It feels like this endless tragic rhythm.
It really is woven into the history. The Chronicle emphasizes no empire lasts. Every dominion decays. Every blade meant to unite eventually divides, sparks new conflict. The fundamental truth is just laid bare. Power in Tamriel is always fragile, always fleeting.
Even the grandest plans just crumble eventually.
Paving the way for the next cycle of struggle. It's almost guaranteed.
Which raises that question about prophecy and choice. This dance between destiny and free will seems central.
Very central.
In a lot of fantasy, prophecy is this rigid thing you just have to follow. But Tamriel seems different.
Much more nuanced, yeah. The Dreamer suggests it's more dynamic. Think about the Nerevarine in Morrowind. They fulfill prophecy, sure, but crucially, they do it by subverting it.
How so?
By challenging its tenets, by choosing a path that actually frees the heart of Lorkhan, rather than just continuing the Tribunal's flawed godhood. They rewrite the expected outcome.
Or the hero of Kvatch in Oblivion saves the world from Daedra.
Literally saves the world, closes the Oblivion gates. But their legacy? Remembered only in silence, really. Overshadowed by Martin Septim's sacrifice becoming Akatosh's avatar. History remembers the god, not the hero who made it possible.
And the Dragonborn in Skyrim shouts down Alduin, the World Eater.
Klein's Mirak ends these massive cosmic threats. But even with all that power, they can't stop the world from just turning. The civil war keeps going, men keep fighting over thrones. The world moves on, largely indifferent to their epic deeds.
But prophecy isn't absolute.
It seems not. The Dreamer offers this insight. In the end, prophecy bends, but only if you dare to shape it.
Only if you dare to shape it.
It's not about being passive. It's about having the courage to engage with destiny, push against it, carve your own path. Even if the world itself doesn't always notice or care, your choices matter, primarily to define your own meaning within that indifferent cosmos.
Okay, one of the things that sounds really fascinating about this chronicle is how it uses these fictional fragments, like diary entries, letters.
Oh, they're brilliant. It's one of the ways the Chronicle achieves its unique poetic feel. These aren't just dry facts. They're intimate, raw glimpses into the minds of people and even gods across Tamriel. It lets you feel the world directly.
It gives it that intimacy, right?
Exactly. The power of intimacy. For instance, there's a letter to no one, supposedly from the Nerevarine, written after everything.
After slaying gods.
Yeah. And it reveals this huge burden, being crowned a hero but feeling totally unholy, fundamentally changed. The Nerevarine is unsure what's even left of them, grappling with identity, but ends with, "The wind remembers my name, and so must I." Haunting stuff about the isolation of that kind of power.
Wow. What else?
Then there's a scribbled thought from a Make the Liar, the Khajiit who pops up in the games.
Make. Always saying weird things.
Exactly. And his thought is totally whimsical and meta. Mac has heard many things. Some true, some not. Mac does not care. Mac knows the world is strange and stranger still when you ask too many questions. It's like this playful nudge reminding you of the absurdity and mystery baked into the lore and maybe the pointlessness of trying to find absolute answers.
He's kind of breaking the fourth wall there.
A little bit, yeah. Then, on a much more tragic note, there's Serana, the daughter of Cold Harbor from Skyrim, her unspoken reflection.
The vampire.
Yeah. As an immortal, she muses, "They say time heals, but I have walked through time, and it does not forgive." She talks about losing herself, trying to please Molag Bal, her father, and now, unbound, she watches mortals live and die in what feels like seconds to her. And she envies them.
Envies mortals.
Yeah. It speaks volumes about the isolating weight of immortality, the unforgiving nature of endless time, and how precious fleeting mortal life can seem from that perspective.
It's incredibly poignant.
And then there's a really chilling one from Septimus Cygnus, that obsessed scholar digging into Dwemer secrets and the scrolls.
Oh, yeah, the guy in the ice cave, he was intense.
His fragment is called Madness Transcribed, and it reveals this terrifying insight he gained from reading the scrolls too deeply. The scrolls see me, I see them, I see me seeing them. The Dwemer vanished, yes, but I understand why. The world is a mouth, and it is always hungry.
The world is a mouth.
Yikes. Yeah. It's this horrific glimpse into the underlying cosmic horror, the idea that Tamriel consumes those who delve too deep, hinting at the dangerous truth within the Godhead's dream, maybe.
So these fragments, they're not just extra flavor.
Not at all. They're woven in expertly to elevate the Chronicle. They infuse it with raw character, deep emotion, this visceral sense of being a direct witness. They make the huge cosmic stuff feel intensely personal.
Okay, let's unfurl the Chronicle itself then. Guide us through the ages of Tamriel as the Dreamer presents them. Each one a big story in itself.
Right. And the Dreamer vows, remember, not to command the scrolls, but to listen, to gather their voices and weave this song, this chronicle.
So, first age.
We begin with the Age of Ash, the Chronicle of Morrowind, a land where the sky literally bleeds dust from Red Mountain. The air hums with sorrow, resentment. It's alien, atmospheric.
And the hero arrives.
The Nerevarine, introduced not with fanfare, but as a prisoner, nameless, faceless, drawn from the sea, like prophecy embodied, a blank slate for this shattered land.
And this is the land ruled by the Tribunal. Vivek, Amalexia, Sothasel, living gods.
Living gods, yes. revered by the Dunmer, but as the Dreamer constantly reminds us, gods who stole their divinity.
Right, the heart of Lorkhan.
Exactly. Their power came from that foundational sacrilege, a broken promise, the heart, misuse of Kagranak's Dwemer tools. Their rule, however long and powerful, was built on a lie, a stolen legacy.
And beneath the mountain.
Dagathur, once an ally, now a mad god, dreaming the sixth house back into existence, trying to reshake the world, awaken some terrifying new cosmic order.
So the Nerevarines' job is basically to stop him. And the tribunal?
Essentially, yes. To confront Dagath-ur, break the chains of prophecy that bound everyone, slay these false gods by cutting their connection to the heart, and ultimately leave the mountain smoking but freed. Freed from those ancient corrupting powers.
But victory in Tamriel is never simple, right?
Never pure. The tribunal fell, the heart was freed, a great evil vanquished, sure. But the ash winds just carried new songs of sorrow. The Nerevarine vanished, destiny fulfilled, but fundamentally changed.
How does the Dreamer capture that feeling?
There's echo from the Nerevarine. I was bound by the words of dead seers, but I cut the threads, one by one, and found myself whole, but haunted. It speaks to that psychological toll, the cost of triumph. Whole, but haunted.
Wow. Okay, so after Ash comes Flame.
The Age of Flame, the Oblivion Chronicle. After Morrowind's intimate alien struggle, we shift focus to the Imperial Heartland, Cyrodiil,
The seat of the Empire.
which starts bleeding under this horrifying red sky. Maruna's Dagon, the Daedric Prince of Destruction, is tearing holes, ripping open the veil between his Deadlands and Mundus.
And the Dragonfires fail.
The Dragonfires fail, the magical protection is gone. The Septim line ends, tragically, with Martin Septim, Uriel VII's secret son, the last Dragonblood. Tamriel faces literal hell on Earth.
And the hero. Another prisoner.
Another nameless hero from a prison cell, the hero of Kvatch, rises to the call, closes countless Oblivion gates, braves the Deadlands, bears the sigil stone.
And stands with Martin at the end.
Stands with Martin as he makes the ultimate sacrifice, becoming the avatar of Akatar's the dragon god, slamming Oblivion's jaws shut, saves Tamlin.
The history forgets the hero.
That's the poignant truth the Dreamer highlights. History remembers the god, the grand sacrifice, not the humble, nameless hand that did the legwork.
And the empire they saved.
Ironically, it began to die in peace. Its golden age faded without the dragon-blooded emperors. The Thalmor rose in the shadows later, exploiting the weakness. The ruby throne grew cold. Oblivion's wounds, though sealed, bled into the next age.
So heroes are just ripples.
As the Dreamer reflects, heroes are the stones stepped across the sea of time. The ripples they leave are all that remain. A reminder that even the greatest deeds fade, leaving only echoes.
Okay, from Flame to Frost.
The Age of Frost, the Skyrim Chronicle, the threat this time, ancient, primordial, Alduin the World Eater,
The big dragon.
firstborn of Akatosh, harbinger of the literal end of days, destined to consume creation, and Skyrim itself is torn apart. Civil war, Nords divided, gods silent,
A fractured land facing apocalypse.
into which rises the Dragonborn, soul of a dragon Dova in mortal flesh, the last Dragonborn, able to use the Thuum, the voice, to speak the world's bones into breaking.
And their deeds. Pretty epic.
Immense, shouting down Alduin on the throat of the world, binding Mirak, the first Dragonborn in Hermaeus Mor's realm, standing against cosmic threats.
But the world just keeps turning.
That's the crucial, melancholic truth the Dreamer points out. Even after all that, the world still turned. Men kept arguing over thrones, petty conflicts continued, legends walked among them unnoticed, the civil war raged on, the empire stayed weak.
Even the Dragonborn couldn't fix everything.
Exactly. The Dreamer echoes the last Dragonborn's likely thought. I spoke the words of power, and the mountains trembled, but no shout could still the hungers of men. Powerful, yet limited against human nature.
And finally, the Age of War, representing Elder Scrolls Online.
Yes, the Chronicle of the Scrolls, ESO. And the Dreamer notes, this time isn't necessarily after the others linearly. Could be before, beside. The Scrolls don't really do linear time.
Okay, so what's happening in this age?
It's defined by the Three Banners War. The Imperial throne is empty, the line broken. Three massive alliances, Daggerfall Covenant, Aldmeri Dominion, Ebonheart Pact, are tearing Tamriel apart, fighting for control. War on a continental scale.
And there's a Daedric threat, too.
Oh yeah, amidst all this mortal conflict, Molag Bal, Prince of Domination, is reaching from Cold Harbor. His goal, the Plain Belt. To literally pull Mindus into his hellish realm, enslave every soul.
So who's the hero this time?
The Vestige, Soulless, exiled, forgotten. Their soul stolen by Molag Bal right at the start, but they rise, bind the chains of the plane meld, cast back the bruise of schemes, become a hero against all odds.
But the mortal wars, they don't end.
Nope. Despite the vestiges' cosmic victory, the dreamer makes it clear. The wars among mortals didn't stop. Tamriel stays divided, as it always seems to. The cycle continues.
And the vestiges echo.
It ties right into that core mystery. To have no soul is to be free of the dream, but the dreamer wakes, even in chains.
Free of the dream, but still wakes.
A fascinating idea. Freedom from the Godhead's dream by lacking a soul, yet still capable of achieving purpose, awakening, even while technically enslaved or bound. It's complex.
So wrapping up these ages, what's the thread holding them all together?
The dreamer asks that exact question. And the answer is profound, simple. Not dragons, not Daedra, not empires or banners. It is the dream.
The dream again?
Tamriel as this shared dream. Gods fall, heroes rise. Choices etch themselves onto the scrolls, shaping reality itself.
And the chronicle doesn't end there.
No, the dreamer acknowledges the scrolls are never silent for long. The next age waits to be read. And then turns it right back on you, the listener. Perhaps you will write it.
Challenging us to consider our role.
Exactly, as participants, not just observers.
Okay, let's shift focus slightly to the architectures of the divine, the gods themselves. We've touched on them. But let's dive deeper into the Aedra first, the 8 or 9 divines.
Right. They are the absolute foundation of Mundus, the mortal world where all this happened.
Their story is sacrifice.
Ultimate sacrifice. They were powerful spirits, Eteta, who chose to create Mundus. But doing so drained them. They poured their very essence, their substance into it.
So they literally became the world.
In a way, yes. They died into creation, becoming the laws of nature, the land, the sky. That's why they're often called the silent divines. They're largely still, power expended. They embody order, stability, but at that immense personal cost.
And Daedra are the opposite.
Stark contrast. Powerful princes, their realms in Oblivion, they refused creation, kept their power. They exist eternally outside Mundus, unbound by its laws, interfering for their own, often chaotic or cruel reasons. Chaos, change, temptation, domination.
We saw Molag Bal and Marunas Dagon.
Key examples. Molag Bal, the schemer, enslaver, Marunas Dagon, the destroyer, revolutionary. And then there's Sheogorath, prince of madness. Pure chaos, unpredictability, capable of warping reality, driving mortals to despair or weird delight. Each embodies a core aspect of cosmic chaos.
And then the tribunal. So powerful in Morrowind, but flawed.
Deeply flawed. Vivek, Almalexia, Sotha-Sil called themselves living gods, built an empire, commanded worship. But their divinity wasn't inherent, it was seized.
Golem divinity, right, from the heart of Lorkhan.
Using Dwemer tools. They were mortal chimer who grabbed godhood during the War of the First Council. Vivek, the warrior poet, all riddles and philosophy. Almalexia, motherly but fiercely jealous and wrathful. Sotha-Sil, the clockwork sage, trying to build a perfect mechanical reality.
They ruled for ages, wrote their own truth.
Built temples, burned heretics. Absolute power. But even they fell. The dreamer blames not just the Nerevarine, but their own pride, betrayal among themselves, the inevitable return of the heart's echo. Their stolen power was always fragile.
How does the dreamer see them? Not just evil.
No, it's more insightful, not simply villains or heroes. Described as what all gods are, the shapes of mortal longing writ large upon the sky.
Shapes of mortal longing.
It humanizes them, suggests they embody magnified desires that, without true divine essence, become destructive. A cautionary tale about the illusion of control.
And beneath all of this, the deepest mystery. The Godhead.
The ultimate secret, hinted at. The radical idea that all of Tamriel gods, mortal scrolls, everything might just be the vivid dream of a sleeping godhead.
The whole thing is a dream.
That's the ultimate meta-narrative. And within that, the myth of Kichime. A state of supreme self-awareness within the dream, realizing it's all a dream, but instead of vanishing, which is called zero-summing, you assert your own existence within it. I am. It blurs the lines between player, character, creator, suggesting enlightenment is conscious participation in the dream, not escape from it.
That is a lot to wrap your head around.
Oh.
Okay, let's take a quicker tour through the peoples and their pasts, the races of Tamriel, each with unique cultures, wounds, and dreams, as the dreamer says.
Right. They're not just character types. They embody different philosophies. The Nords, children of sky and snow, hardy warriors from Skyrim, masters of the Thuum, raw will, courage, honor.
The Dunmer, ashborn, sorrowbound from Morrowind, Resilient, proud, shaped by the tribunal, the red year, their lost chimer past, grappling with identity.
The Altmer, high elves, heirs of vanished glory from Somerset Isle, cling to tradition, purity, superiority, an old order pursuing perfection, sometimes arrogantly, like the Thelmore.
The Bosmer, wood elves, wild hunts children from Valenwood, deeply tied to the Green Pact, forbidding harm to plants, primal, sometimes brutal, connection to nature.
The Khajiit, shaped by moon and myth, feline people of elsewhere. Agile, mercantile, diverse forms based on moon phases, vibrant spiritual culture tied to lunar cycles.
The Argonians, root and scale, reptilian beings from Black Marsh, enigmatic, tied to the histories, resilient, communal, underestimated, unique consciousness.
The Redguards, warriors of the sands from Hammerfell, martial prowess, honor, resist magic, history of migration, independence, fierce pride.
The Imperials, builders of empires from Cyrodiil, diplomacy, administration, military, striving for unity, order, but constantly struggling to maintain control.
And the Orcs, often outcast but made strong by adversity, unyielding warrior culture in mountain strongholds, proud, honorable, loyal, legendary smiths fighting for respect. Each race embodies a facet of Tamriel's challenges.
And Tamriel's history is marked by scars on the land, the Great Wars. These aren't just battles, they're continent-shaping conflicts.
Defining moments that echo through ages. The ancient war of the First Council in Morrowind. Dwemer versus Chimer, leading to the Dwemer vanishing and the Chimer becoming Dunmer, tied to the heart.
The Tiber Wars. Tiber Septim's brutal unification of Tamriel forged the empire, brought peace, but sowed seeds of rebellion.
The Oblivion crisis. Maruna's Dagon's invasion. Devastating, left deep scars, ended the Septim dynasty, created a power vacuum.
The Great War. Centuries later, Aldmeri Dominion versus the weakened empire, ended with the controversial White Gold Concordat, fueling resentment, especially in Skyrim, leading to its civil war.
And the Three Banners War in Eso, ongoing massive conflict between the alliances for the Ruby Throne, shows that even after cosmic threats are dealt with, mortal power struggles persist. Perpetual conflict seems Tamriel's state.
Okay, and briefly, the power of artifacts. These aren't just magic items.
No, they're objects of immense reality-bending power, living parts of the dream, top tier.
Yeah.
The Heart of Lorcan, divine spark, source of Tribunal's power, catalyst for Dwemer vanishing, cosmic nexus.
The Numidium, the brass god.
Huge golem made by Dwemer, used by Tiber Septim. Its activation caused a dragon break, fracturing time, terrifying power. Then the Amulet of Kings, key to the dragon fires protecting Tamriel, symbol of Septim rule. Its destruction ended an era, and the Elder Scrolls themselves, mutable reality, dangerous insight,
And Daedric artifacts.
embody their princes. Maruna's razor, instant death, destruction. Wabajak, Sheogorath, chaos, staff, transformation. Ebony blade, Mephala's, grows stronger with betrayal. Each reflects its source.
So that's the Black Books.
From Apocrypha, Hermaeus Mora's realm, offer forbidden knowledge but twist minds, bind you to Mora's will. Each artifact is living history, mythology. Which brings us to the Dreamer's final reflections. Pulling it all together, what binds the ages?
Not dragons, not Daedra.
It is the dream. Tamriel as the shared dream, gods fall, heroes rise, choices etch onto the scrolls, shaping reality.
Revisiting the core themes.
Power and its price. Aedra's sacrifice, tribunal's theft, empires falling. Prophecy versus freedom, shaping destiny. The endless cycle of empire and ruin. And the player's role. Hero, pawn, sometimes godlike, shaping the dream.
And the ultimate secret.
The Godhead. Everything might be its dream. Invites you to question reality, yours included.
But the Chronicle connects this back to us.
Directly, powerfully. And you, yes, you might be the one who wakes. Implying your engagement matters cosmically, maybe?
Because the games ask you to become real.
Exactly. Not to save the world because the cycles continue anyway. It's because you need to remember. You are the story. You are the dreamer. And it's time to wake up. A call to agency, impact, within and beyond the game.
And the final image, the Elder Scrolls as a mirror.
A mirror of our own hunger for meaning in the face of ruin, power, and time. Reflecting our own human condition, our search for purpose in an often indifferent world.
So, it leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? If Tamriel, with all its gods and empires and heroes, is this grand waking dream, what does that mean for our reality? What stories are we writing just by existing, by choosing, by striving and falling?
It really encourages you to consider your own dreamer within, your own life, your narrative. What incredible story are you shaping right now simply by being here, by living it?